Hello and welcome to Logan Rando Aquascaping. My name is Logan and today I want to talk to you guys about my top 5 favorite tips for beginner aquascapers. Now, I've been aquascaping for about 6 or 7 years, and over the years I would just pour over information. I would pour over forums, I would watch a ton of YouTube videos, and I've gathered a ton of information over the years. And I wanted to distill the important parts of the learning process into top 5 tips. So I'm hoping that if you're a beginner who's maybe just starting out, or you've been aquascaping for under a year, that these tips will help streamline your process and sort of guide you in the right direction. Because in a hobby as technical, scientific, and artistic as this, there can be a lot of information out there and it can be overwhelming. So I hope this helps. So let's dive right into the list. Number 1, design your aquascape around the livestock. So in aquascaping, we have a certain reverence for the animals that we put into our tank. We really want to respect them and give them a good home and make sure they're happy and healthy. Because even though a lot of the emphasis in aquascaping is on the plants and the hardscape, the animals create harmony and they complete the layout. So we try our best to really respect their needs and give them a good life. So when you're designing your layout and you're seeking inspiration and putting things together, the first thing you want to think about is, okay, what livestock do I want to keep? Because that's going to determine everything. It's going to determine the size of the tank you get. It's going to determine the type of filtration you get, the temperature you keep the tank at, and ultimately what plants you add. For example, let's say you want to create a betta tank. That's very common for a beginner. Well, bettas tend to like warmer temperatures. Also, they don't like too much flow because they're labyrinth fish and they go up to the top of the tank to grab oxygen. And if you have a ton of flow, they may have issues doing that. And if you have plants that can't tolerate higher temperatures, you might also have issues. Maybe you want to keep a discus tank. Same thing. They have very specific requirements. So the first thing you should decide is what species of fish do you want to keep? And know that there are a ton of really cool nano species of fish in the aquascaping world that will tolerate very basic conditions. So do your research, decide what livestock you want to keep, and then design the layout from there, because their livelihood and their wellness is really important. Tip number 2, create an aquascape that suits your lifestyle. So in aquascaping, there's so many different kinds of layouts. Some of them are very minimal maintenance, some of them require a ton of maintenance. For example, the aquascape I have sitting behind me, that's a UNS 60U 20-gallon tank. It's got a bunch of slow growing, really easy plants. So now that it's balanced and it's been set up for a couple months, it's really easy maintenance. I do the water changes twice a week, 2 25% water changes. Barely have to do any trimming, there's barely any algae. That's a really easy tank to maintain if you have a busy lifestyle. However, maybe you want to set up a tank with a ton of fast growing, vibrant stems and you're dosing a lot of nutrients, so you have to do big water changes and you're constantly trimming. That's a tank that might not suit a lifestyle that's really, really busy. So you have to be very honest with yourself and you have to ask yourself, okay, how much time do I have / want to commit per week to maintaining my aquascape? Because if you create something that's really beautiful, but you don't have the time to maintain it and allow it to thrive, it's gonna get ugly, you're gonna get algae, you're gonna get frustrated, you're gonna give up. So make sure you're very honest with yourself about how much time you want to commit and what you're able to do in the first place, and then design the layout accordingly. Tip number 3, take your time when planning, do your research, and do not impulse buy anything. So as you're doing your research, you're probably gonna come across a ton of aquascapes that really, really excite you, and you're gonna go to the store and you're gonna wanna create something right away. But you need to take your time and you need to stop yourself from impulse buying things, especially when there's livestock that are at risk. The last thing you wanna do is go to the fish store, buy something that you're not ready to keep and it dies. It's cruel, it's not okay, and it's gonna upset you. So take your time and research the needs of your plants and your livestock. Don't just go to the store, see something you think is really cool, and then buy it that day. Plan things out accordingly. Maybe one week you just buy the tank. Maybe another week you buy the filtration and the other equipment. Then you order your plants, and then you get things settled and you get past your algae phase. And then after getting through all that, think about maybe rewarding yourself a couple weeks later with a trip to the fish store where you get your livestock. But this is after you've gone on the internet and you've diligently done your research and you've chosen something that you know you can take care of with your skill level and with your parameters. So do your research and do not buy something on impulse at the fish store. as tempting as it may be. Tip number 4, find inspiration that suits your experience and commitment level. Okay, so you've discovered aquascaping, you've come across the work of Takashi Amano, and you've realized that, wow, this fish tank can be way better than anything I've previously seen with plastic plants and, maybe a treasure chest and a scuba diver. You realize you can get crazy with plants and rocks and gravel and create scale and have the fish kind of resemble little birds. And you come across some IAPLC winning works and you're like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Bad idea. You need to find inspiration that suits and matches your current experience level. Let me give you an analogy to put it in the perspective. Let's say, you're not the healthiest individual and you decide, okay, in 2022, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna lift weights, and I'm gonna get really, really fit. So you're like, all right, I need a workout plan. So you go on a bodybuilding forum and you start eating, 4,000 calories a day and you're lifting really, really heavy weights. Bad idea, you're a beginner. That's not achievable. And with weightlifting, you might even hurt yourself. With aquascaping, you might hurt your livestock and you might hurt your wallet. So find inspiration that is really accessible and beginner friendly. There are a ton of really, really amazing aquascapers on Instagram and YouTube who are extremely talented, but they do very repeatable, achievable aquascapes. So if it's your first aquascape, even if it's like your third aquascape, I would say stick to something that's really, really simple. Learn how to grow the plants, learn how to shape the aquascape, learn how to predict how the composition will sort of grow into itself, and do that by creating really simplistic aquascapes that don't have overly complicated hardscapes. Don't worry, if you stick with this, you can get to those dioramas, you can get to the really insane scale, but you can have something so beautiful in your home that is just extremely simple and zen-like. So find inspirations online that are really easily repeatable and then go ahead and copy it, Find the plants they use, find the hardscape they use, keep it really simple and see how best you can replicate it and then grow from there. Tip number 5. Don't cherry pick your info. Find a mentor and replicate their techniques. So with aquascaping being such a technical, scientific, and artistic hobby, there are many, many roads to success. Some aquascapers have completely contradictory techniques and methodologies than other aquascapers, and they create beautiful work. So what's the deal with that? Well, like I said, science is not simple. Nature is not simple. Art is not simple. It's multifaceted. It's nuanced. You can employ a variety of techniques and still create something beautiful. So when you're gathering your info and you're learning about aquascaping, you're probably gonna come across forums, some of them very outdated. You're gonna come across multiple YouTube channels. You're gonna come across multiple write-ups and articles, and that's awesome. We have this incredible wealth of information available right at our fingertips, but it can be overwhelming and you're gonna find a lot of contradictory information. So this tip actually comes from George Farmer in a video he put out a couple years ago. His tip was to find a mentor, and that can be somebody online like a YouTuber or an Instagrammer. Find somebody whose work you love that is very achievable for you and see if you can stick to their techniques, because it's very tempting with our psychology to find the things that suit us specifically and cherry pick information and cherry pick things that fit our budget. And if you start doing that, you might not have the success you want. Let me give you a really common example. So you get into aquascaping, you're gathering information, and you decide, okay, I wanna go with this type of layout, so I'm gonna do what the pros do, and I'm gonna use aqua soil, and I'm gonna use tissue culture plants, and I'm gonna get lighting. Oh, okay, but I see they're all using CO2. I don't know if I wanna be dropping $200 to $300 right now on CO2. Well, there's this blog post that says that you don't need CO2, that you can just get by on your tap water, and that, CO2 is a waste of money. All right, I think I can ditch CO2 because this guy on the forum says no. That is going to get you into trouble, because with our psychology, we're gonna find the things that suit us and we're gonna put it together, and with aquascaping, that doesn't always work. So I highly recommend you find a mentor on YouTube or Instagram, and you can even reach out to them directly and ask them questions. This is such a tight-knit community. It's so easy to access some of the best aquascapers in the world and pick their brain for a little bit. So find somebody you admire, follow their techniques and try not to deviate from them in the beginning, because if you do what they do, you'll probably achieve the same kind of results as they do. Whereas if you mix and match different things, you might get mixed results. So that's all I've got for today. I hope these 5 tips help streamline your learning process and kind of get you on the road to success with aquascaping, because even though it's a really steep learning curve and there's a lot of hurdles in the beginning, I feel like the rewards are just so high with this hobby. It brings me a ton of joy, and I'm really happy to be sharing my knowledge that I've gathered over the years, and I continue to learn. So do me a favor, let me know down below in the comments the #1 tip that you have learned over your years of aquascaping. Even if you've only been scaping for a few weeks or a few months, what's the #1 thing you've learned that you can distill to like one little nugget of information? So thanks for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next few videos. I've got a ton of new builds coming. I'm doing a beta nanoscape with my roommate Mal. I'm doing an ADA 45P in here, so lots of fun stuff coming. Stay tuned for more. Hit the subscribe button. See you next time. Bye-bye.